So we have a little write-in today, don't we, Mel babes?
We do, and this is a little bit different.
All right.
It's not bad. It's not gross. It's not
Oh, well, then I'm not
naughty.
interested.
But it's a real thing, I think,
Okay.
that a lot of people suffer from. And it is from a woman.
Mm.
And she, in the email, she said, we don't talk or have sex.
Okay.
I've been married for 15 years and have 2 kids. Been between school, our jobs, our parents, and keeping the house running, my husband and I have no time to talk, let alone have sex. I love him, but the thought of making a huge effort to have sex is such a turn-off, I'd rather have a night alone. And I think it's very, very common. And what you do. And I think it's a very, very common problem that women have, that men then get very upset about and complain and think women are not interested in sex and that they can never sort this out. And then it just sort of often becomes this giant problem that people sweep under the rug and they sort of survive. And then eventually it all implodes. Somebody has an affair, something happens.
Right.
It's generally what happens.
Well, Mel, you've been married for 30 years. 24.
24.
Sorry.
Together.
You've been together 30, married for
more or
24.
less.
You just had your anniversary. So if you're, I mean, we don't know how old, excuse me, we don't know how old this woman is, obviously.
No,
but if we're
she's-
even speaking to the younger generation, Mel, to the
Mm.
millennials who are just getting married, even the Gen Zs that are just getting married, what kind of advice are you going to give someone to like make a marriage last and to keep having sex?
Well, there's a couple of pieces of advice.
Right.
For both genders.
Okay, good.
So what happens often with women, and we are now in this world where women, for the most part, have to want to combination of both work, and they have a full-time job, and they have children on top of that, and they're not making the kind of money where they can get help, you know, nannies and cleaners and all that. That's extremely expensive, and that's for the very few. So, and then she says 15 years, so maybe she's sort of in her late 30s or 40, maybe 40s.
Right.
Then you got this other problem that parents start to age.
Right.
So you've got that on top. And I know a lot of people where this has happened. So they got children, a job, or a business, or, you know, professional life, and then parents, and then this husband. And it's just too much for one person. It's just huge. Now, women are natural caretakers. So even though men are much more involved than they were years ago, they're still not, for the most part, the natural kind of caretakers of the family. That's a woman. That's what women do. It's just, I mean,
it's innate.
You know, it's innate. I mean, look, it's a double standard. It's, you know, people are going to say, oh, no, that's a generalization and it's sexist and whatever. But for the most part, women still do, of all my friends, except for me, the cooking, the cleaning, the organizing. And I certainly do all the organizing.
Right.
I make everyone's appointments. I do all the organizing of the children, all the stuff, you know, anything domestic.
Yeah.
Plus working, plus. And I don't think it's fair to say it's always men just don't do anything. And I don't think that's fair. And I think they get accused of that. I think a lot of the time women don't want them to do it because they don't do it the way they want. So, and I feel that. It's like, you don't do it the way I want, so I just prefer to do it myself. So you're kind of creating, your own sort of problems.
But so then how are you keeping the sex alive with all these things that you've had to do?
Well, that's the problem, is you sort of become a bit of a perfectionist, and it's the thing at the end of the list. And I think the thing is that that's the other problem about sex is, and we've said this many times, I think men have sex to relax, women have to be relaxed to have sex. And that is a generalization, but it's the best way I can think of, like, kind of explaining it. Women have to have all the stuff done and then still feel good, and then, okay, let's have sex.
Absolutely.
So that's the problem, is they're doing all this stuff. It gets to the end of the day, and that's the other problem. It gets to the end of the day, and they're like, I don't feel good, so I don't want to do it. Whereas a man is up for it, he can do it. And I think it is about perhaps if the man sees that she's got a lot going on, and I'm not saying he isn't, that he has to find ways of helping her find ways of creating time, because that's the other problem. Is I think we naturally think about doing it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Which is actually the worst time to do it,
Because you're
it's
exhausted.
when you're tired, you're not in the mood, and all you can think about is sleep. And the problem is, if you have a normal life like everybody else on the planet, you're at the times you would feel like it, sort of the middle of the day or the afternoon, or when you're like awake, and what are you going to do? Rush home and whip your kit off.
Whip your
That's
titties off.
Your kit is your clothes. That's a
Oh.
very English. I mean, you can't, right?
No, of course not. And I mean, you get to this place like, I mean, I have been in long-term relationships, one very long-term relationship, and I know the feeling of just literally being so tired. And it's for women because it takes us that much longer to get to orgasm.
Mm-hmm.
It is literally like you're coming home from a long day, you're dealing with stuff. I don't even have kids, right? So, like, the women who are dealing with kids and everything else, and the husband and everything, whatever, like, women deal with it just so much. Obviously, men too, but women, like you're saying, we organize. We like to be in control of that for our lives. And so you're coming home from this long day, and then you pretty much have to like go to it's like going to the gym. It's like putting that certain mindset on where you're like you have to go like work out now. You have to do like an hour workout because it takes you 15 minutes to even for foreplay to even potentially orgasm. So it's like should the woman just be like, okay, I'm fucking tired. It's going to take me 15 minutes to even get wet, pretty much, because I'm like so much on my mind and I have to like get out of that mind space. And then, like, at what point does the woman like be like, okay, I'm just going to have sex for him?
Yeah, you kind of have to do that.
You have to do that.
I think there are periods of your life,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's the other thing that women do a real disservice to other women, and I'd say especially my generation. The Gen X, we're the sort of first generation in the Western world where we've pretty much all worked, all raised children, all been married, like done it all. Whereas the boomers, it's a sort of mishmash. Some work, some didn't. I'd say Gen X is the first generation where, and we did it to ourselves. We said, oh yeah, we can be Superwoman, right? And we can't. And something's got to give. And inevitably, the thing that gives is the relationship, because I think there's several things and intimacy on any level. I don't even just mean sex; I just mean intimacy on any level. I think it's because you then start to take the person for granted.
Yeah,
because the person is there, and you just think, oh well, there's tomorrow, and then the tomorrows run out. Now, I've seen this a lot in our comments and the comments we've had from men, that they think it's exclusively in these sort of scenarios, which are quite common, and men complain about it, they think that it's exclusively the woman who's to blame. And I would say, look, think about it this way. Maybe she's the one saying no in the moment, but think about why she's saying no. She's tired. You're not kind of doing it for her in the moment. Have you had an argument? That's another thing. If, you have an argument, or you have a kind of moment in the day on top of layered all the other things, the last fucking thing a woman wants to do is sleep with you. It's like, forget it. I'm just like, the shutters have gone down, forget it. And women are much better. I'm not saying they don't get frustrated, but they're much better at sort of compartmentalizing sex.
Yes, exactly.
And saying, they don't think about the consequences of doing that. I'd agree with that before somebody even asked me that. That's absolutely a thing. But women are much better at going, okay, well, we'll shove it to the side.
Right.
It's just, I think it's probably, having no medical knowledge whatsoever, it's a biological thing, whereas men, it's obviously, it's there. Women can sort of have the thought in the moment and then go, okay, whatever, and just carry on, which is what a lot of women do.
Yeah.
They don't act on the feeling, right? And the problem is the feeling comes probably at the most inconvenient time.
Right.
And so what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And then you can say, well, how is it in new relationships that you seem to find the time? But I think that's the thing. When you meet people for the first time and you're starting that dating thing, well, you're younger and you probably don't have all these other things.
If there's a problem when you're starting a relationship, then that's a real problem.
Yeah. But I think obviously you probably don't have children and all of that at that point, but it's also a question of you zone out the world when you first meet.
Totally.
And then when you're in the relationship, you're in the world, you're in life, you're in the thing. So I would say there are several things that you need to do. It's the man needs to help create the environment. He needs to be a little bit more, for the most part, understanding and patient and create an environment. Think about ideas. Be a bit creative, okay?
In like what? Like dates or like what do you mean?
Dates, helping her like, okay, and we've talked about this in previous episodes. Do you schedule it? Do you go on a date? And I know you hate the idea of scheduling, but when you have, let's say, young children, a job, aging parents, all these other things, you got no choice. You're probably going to have to do it. You can find a sexy way of doing it, but you're probably going to have to do it. And I think that's something a man could help with in a really patient, loving way. And I think for the woman, you have got to prioritize it. Women do not prioritize it because it's just too much to overcome this, oh my God, because you're just like, I just want to get to the end. This whole feeling of how do I deal with I just got to go to sleep. I've got to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Because it's 11 o'clock at night. If I don't got to go to sleep, I got to get up at 6. I've got to make 2-pack lunches. I've got to take kids to school. I've got to work. I've got to, and that's how a woman's brain starts going.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
It's
and
horrible.
whereas men are much better, and I know there's lots of studies.
Their brains shut off and they just think about one thing, and it's incredible.
I don't think that it actually shuts off. They compartmentalize.
Right.
So they have a much better ability. They're still thinking and worrying about all the shit in their life, of which there's many, and they're worrying about how they're going to pay the bills and the family. It's still going around their head. They're just better at putting it in a box in the moment. And I think there's a study, somebody was talking to me about this the other day, about men have different boxes in their brain.
Right.
And they're able to put the thoughts and say, okay, well, I'm thinking about this, so let's put that there. Let's deal with this, finish that, and then go back to that. Whereas women just have one big box, and it's all in the big box.
Right.
And so it's incredibly distracting. And I just think if, it's taken me a lifetime to realize this, but if we were more aware as women and men of these things, then it would help. And I think in many cases, it does take the man in this situation, because he is better at compartmentalizing, to help the woman say, okay, let's carve out, it really only needs to be half an hour and it can be fun, right? It doesn't have to be 5 hours. Because I think in the woman's head, she's like, oh my God, this is like 3 hours of like, think of,
because sometimes it takes a long time for a woman to come. And so she's like, well, if he wants me to come, it's going to take me an hour to come. And so I'm going to have to deal with that. And I'm going to have to and then I'm going to fake an orgasm. And then I'm going to have to do this. And it's like, it's just, I think the pressure that sometimes that men put on a woman to when they're having sex with them, because they want the woman to enjoy it for the most part. And so they're like, well, like, why can't you just like sit back and enjoy the sex that we're gonna have? And it's like, because you can't, because you're stressed. Exactly. And so that's something that is 100% men have to realize. It's very difficult for us.
I would say, particularly as women age, is one thing the men can do, which is really appealing, is go and do a bit of research. Find out. I mean, honestly, like Google's like, I understand this. Is if that is an issue, well, then go out and buy some toys and help her out.
Absolutely.
Help her out so that you kind of
so fun.
Fast forward that bit, because if she is very stressed, lots of stuff in her head, anything that you're doing, shall we say naturally, it's not going to work.
No.
So, because she's too stressed. But if you
lube helps too, guys.
Yeah, introduce some stuff like toys and stuff to kind of speed the de-stressing.
Absolutely.
Because if there is a toy involved, it will absolutely help.
Yes.
So get that involved, then you'll get to the point and then you'll be good. And then you can literally not have to worry. And then that could be your thing for a while, or even forever. It doesn't matter. But I think that is a really good thing. And if the man went and did the research and found that out, I think she'd be like, wow. She'd be like, wow.
Yeah.
And and then again, always the conversation you're going to have with your wife, with your partner, with your girlfriend, because every relationship is different. If you are trying to broach something new, do it gently.
Mhm.
You are not going to achieve world peace in one conversation.
Yeah.
So gently suggest things over a series of conversations. Do you have to plan those conversations? Think about them? Yes. Do not suddenly go, oh, over toast in the morning and coffee.
Exactly.
Oh, blah, blah, blah. Think about how you're going to do this. And I definitely think you can 100% deal with this, but it takes effort on both sides.
Yeah.
But it also takes one side to initiate the thing. If you're both going, oh, nothing's happening and nobody's talking about it, it's just going to go on and on and on.
Yeah.
And I think that if a woman is sort of submerged by all this shit in her life, she's not going to want another conversation and another problem. Thanks so much for listening. Please rate and review this podcast and follow us on social at Sharing My Truth Pod, and leave us a voicemail on our website, sharingmytruth.com, to share your stories and experiences with us. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.